Thank you and welcome everybody on this cold but sunny, beautiful day, last day of November 2020. My name is Carl Hawkins. I'm with the University of Minnesota Extension, Hennepin County, and I coordinate this Twin Cities Metro Growers Network. And very briefly, the idea is simply to bring people together where they work and where they live. And of course now we're just doing it Zoom wise, but to share and to network and to work together and help each other along the way as we figure out how to grow food and how to share food and how to get better at this food system work, let's call it that. So it came out of my desire to hook people up who aren't necessarily working together, different, working on different things, but we all have a lot to share. We all have a lot to learn. And no matter why you're growing, be for market, for actual farmer, or for youth, we're going to hear about that, or for your backyard, or for a nonprofit, whatever it might be. It's a lot of work. It takes a lot of time, and we can all get better at being more efficient and more productive. So that's in a nutshell what the network is all about. And Katie, you want to say a word about SFA? I partner with Sustainable Farming Association, a great Minnesota sustainable ag nonprofit on this network.
Yeah, and a lot of what Carl was saying about the Twin Cities Metro Growers Network is kind of the ethos of Sustainable Farming Association as well. The mission of SFA is to, I have to read the thing, advances environmental stewardship, economic resilience, and strong, diverse communities through farmer-to-farmer networking, education, demonstration, and research. So we have networking groups like this. We have like an ecological livestock networking group, and then there's regional chapters around the state. And so farmers networking with other farmers, helping each other be better, sharing knowledge that they've learned, mentoring the young ones up into the seasoned ones, we'll say. And we have conferences and webinars, mostly webinars lately, but some workshops and things throughout the year. So if any topics from today interest you, as I imagine they will because you're here, kind of check out our website and see what other resources we might have for you. SFA is for people who, are home gardeners, are farmers, are starting to think about maybe introducing some sustainable practices into their row cropping operations or their livestock operations. Really, wherever you're at in your interest in your farming or growing journey, like you'll find a place to plug in at SFA. So I think that's what I got.
I put in the chat the SFA website, and I coordinate with them. If you go to their top there, you can see chapters and then other networks. And I also coordinate the Ecological Service Livestock Network, which is returning livestock to the land. And so check those out. And it's been a great collaboration. So we're going to hear today from Urban Roots, a longstanding organization in St. Paul, and their awesome youth-centered garden programs. So Skyler, I will turn it over to you, and you can introduce your gang and your program.
Great. Well, just before I introduce myself, I'm just going to describe how the day will go a bit. So we're going to try and get through a slideshow that we put together. We're really bummed we can't have you out in person. So the slideshow looks really big, but that's because we wanted a lot of pictures, and we wanted you to feel like you knew what it was like to be there and get a sense of what it's like having 6 different garden plots. So I think we'll be able to get through it by 2. And then at 2, we have some kind of ongoing projects that we thought some people here might have a lot of advice on. Maybe you've tried what we're gonna try, and maybe you just have questions or connections, or you can ask any question you want. But we'll kind of save 30 minutes at the end to kind of debrief and explore some ideas a little bit. So my name is Skyler Hawkins, and I'm the Market Garden Program Manager at Urban Roots. And this past season was my 2nd season. And this will be my 3rd we're going into. And I'm gonna pass it off to Marcos from here.
Hi, everybody. My name is Marcos. I'm the seasonal supervisor for Urban Roots. So along with Skyler and Jaclyne, I help run the youth shifts in the garden and help just make sure that everything operates smoothly in the gardens and that we get the food out. So that's my role. Jaclyne, you want to go next?
Yeah, hi everybody. My name is Jaclyne and I am the education manager at Urban Roots. And I have been at Urban Roots for 5 seasons, in which time I've kind of co-managed the garden program with the farm manager. But now we're kind of looking at transitioning my position a little bit more into more education outreach as Skyler's position grows also. So that's something I'd love to talk to you all about. And previous to this, I was a teacher in the St. Paul Public Schools and then also worked on a variety of organic vegetable farms around Minnesota. So I will now pass it to Zarea.
Hello, everybody. My name is Zarea. I've been a part of Urban Roots for about 5 seasons now as well. I am a part of the Market Garden program throughout my 5 years. Is where I've been. I just kind of learned how to garden, but now I am the alum assistant I'm an alum and the executive director's assistant of Urban Roots. So I just kind of help everybody out and make sure everybody's A-okay.
And Skyler, you really want to, at the end, you're interested in partnerships and working together with other folks around the metro, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So we can touch on that.
Yeah, if you're interested in partnering or have an idea, you can tell us. And we have a couple prompts too that we'll run by you. But I think actually Jaclyne is going to start us off on the slideshow. So I'm going to share my screen and you can take it from there.
All right. So hi. Welcome. General background to Urban Roots. We are a nonprofit on the east side of St. Paul that has been around for over 50 years now, but we have not looked this way that we look right now for 50 years. About 20 years ago, we transitioned from being like an urban landscaping design organization to a youth urban farming organization. And then a few years later, we added on a conservation program. And also then a few years later, grew our cooking program into a program that was all its own. And so we're very youth centered. In the summertime, we have 70 youth now that we employ through the city of St. Paul. They help pay the wages, the Right Track program. And then about 20 of those youth stay on with us during the school year. And so our values are healthy, active living, community, and leadership. And then we teach those values through the lenses of these 3 programs, the garden, the cooking, and the conservation. Next slide. Beautiful. Okay, now I'm gonna just give you a quick background of our 3 programs, and then we're gonna spend a lot of time on the garden program because that's what you all are have come here to hear about. So this is a slide of our conservation crew building a rain garden. They spend their summers planting native species, which they collect seeds from the previous years. They do a ton of invasive species removal. They all see buckthorn in their sleep. They, out of necessity, they started a bike crew. Like, we didn't have enough vans. So our conservation manager got a fleet of bikes and some bike trailers. And now one of the crews goes out to the job sites via bicycle each day. And it's turned out to be a big highlight for kids. They work a lot on forest and prairie restoration and planting rain gardens, planting pollinator gardens like near libraries. This is out right behind our offices. Any little urban green space that's possible. And they also have bees that we get to enjoy the honey from. and share with our partners. And secondly, the Cook Fresh program. This is a really coveted program. Kids love having the chance to be a part of it. One of the big things that we do in a non-COVID year is every Tuesday, the Cook Fresh program, the advanced interns in the Cook Fresh program prepare a lunch for all of the interns and staff at Urban Roots. So it's like 70 to 80 people they're preparing a lunch for, and they get a local celebrity chef that comes in and kind of and leads that lunch. So we've had like Yia Vang from Union Kitchen, Heather Jans from Curry Diva, a lot of folks who I was really excited to meet and get to taste the essence of their foods. They do a lot of cooking with the produce that we grow in the gardens, and a lot of focus on culture and how it relates to food and tradition. And last but not least, here we are, Market Garden. General overview, we have 6 sites around East St. Paul, and all those sites together add up to only 1 acre. But in that 1 acre, this year we grew 15,000 pounds of food, and that's a new record this year. We grew 13,000 pounds a couple years, and now we made it to 15 this year. With the food insecurity, we really had a goal of growing a lot of food, and we did it. Here we go. I'll pass it to Skyler.
Yeah, so we wanted to give you a sense of what our gardens are like since you can't come visit. And they're all really unique. And I think that as we explore some of the challenges and benefits of urban farming, I think one of the challenges is definitely the nuances that every garden has in soil fertility or in water infrastructure, in how long we know we can be there. So each garden is really, really different. So we're going to kind of walk you through them. This is our first Covenant Garden site. The land is owned by a church. Gosh, Jaclyne, you might have to help me out here, but I think we've been there for like 7 years, would you say?
Actually, Zarea might know even more.
Way longer
I think
than
longer
that,
than that, yeah.
All right.
Since I've been in like 4th grade, so a very long time.
Cool.
Zarea went to this church when she was a kid, so she saw this garden grow.
Explode. It used to be like a little box, and now it's like an actual garden.
Zarea, you definitely should have been the one to present this slide. All of that, but yeah, we kind of go year by year with this agreement. We don't have any formal leases on land, aside from the city of St. Paul that leases 1 year at a time on our 3rd and Mariah plot that you'll see. But just as an overview and for context, that's not something that that's ever really been a part of our farming experience. So that is definitely a challenge as we go forward, but we just kind of act like people are gonna let us stay there for a while, and that's been working for us so far. We have fire hydrant water access. The city helps us set up water for that. We have a 3-bin composting system that we just put in, and that's really been a big part of what we've been working on this last summer too, is really dialing in on our compost systems and creating, SOPs for them, and really making sure that we know how to take care of them, and we know how to record that we're taking care of them, so that we know when the compost is ready to put out back into the garden. And yeah, we have a drip tape irrigation system here, which is pretty common. I'd say like half or more of our garden sites use drip tape.
And Skyler, if I could jump in here, I see, looks like it's all fenced out to keep the rabbits and other critters away.
Yep. And we actually extended the fence here this year through a Ramsey County grant that was really helpful. And it was around mitigating food waste. And we were actually just losing a lot of food to pest pressure. And we were already putting the compost systems in there to address that food waste. So that was really, really helpful. So this garden, along with all of our gardens, have looked really different every year as we kind of get to reinvest in them and figure out what it needs and kind of hone in on how we can really make the garden work best for us. So you can kind of see where the new fence begins and the old fence kind of takes over here. So yeah, this has become That's also allowed us to really extend our beds and be a lot more productive in these garden beds too.
I also wanted to point
And
out in
that's an
that photo, because since it's really visible, we have discovered that putting clover as green mulch in the pathways has been super helpful. It reduces how much weeding we need to do by a lot. And then also, since it's a legume, adds nitrogen to the soil too. But we discovered that the key is seeding it really thickly, because if you don't, then the other weeds pop up intermittently, and then it's worse than having it be bare, because then you can't hoe it. So as long as it's really thick, then it outcompetes the weeds and saves a lot of time.
And really try to drench it right after you plant, after you sow those seeds. Yeah. Zarea, do you want to kind of introduce Third Mariah?
Yeah, this is one of our original gardens. It has grown so much since I started here. It is next to Phoenix Market, actually, where we carry our produce with them. It's a nice way to get produce out to the community. We also have our huge, beautiful mural in the back that you can see that was created by our youth council at Urban Roots as well. And this garden also has drip tape irrigation and the clover in the pathways, as you can see. Yeah.
Marcos.
Cool. I'll tell you a little bit about our Swede Hollow site. So this is our site at Swede Hollow Cafe, right near our offices. It's our smallest garden, and we try to grow a variety of stuff there that we can share with the cafe, actually, for the food that they produce there, like salads and sandwiches and things like that. So we try to grow like salad greens and those sorts of things. Yeah, just like all of our other sites, we're renting the land. This time it's actually from the cafe. And we actually get our water too from the cafe, from a water hookup there. No drip tape irrigation. We just use a sprinkler because it's so small. And then we've got this wonderful raspberry patch right next to the food that we grow.
This garden is our Dellwood garden. It is accompanied by the Dellwood assisted living people or elderly. They have raised beds, actually, that we get to garden with them with. And it's so cool to, I don't know, involve the community and see them get involved, which then indicates they have handicap accessible ramps for, the elderly. And I like to use it too, so, good for me too. Yeah, it's a beautiful garden. We tend to grow our garlic there because it can just sit, and a lot of our lettuces and sometimes onions, but not usually. But yeah, that would.
Where is that located?
This is on
It is
7th Street. Sorry, Zarea.
No, go ahead.
It's actually really close to Sweet Hollow, so it's like a half a block from Sweet Hollow.
Oh, okay.
A nice little stroll.
Yeah.
Looks great.
Yeah, that's East 7th Street right there. So if you've been to the Mississippi Market over there, it's just kitty corner from it.
Yeah, a lot of our gardens you can just like walk to if you wanted to. We try to keep them close together.
And there are some awesome red currants that grow there that go in our CSA also.
I believe I forgot about that. Those are so good, and they're perennials, so I get to have them every year.
Cool. And our garden at Urban Roots, or our garden at our office site, it's actually it's two separate sections. We try to grow a big variety in this site because it's kind of like it's a pretty public facing garden. When people come to visit the offices, or it's a heavily trafficked area, so we show up. We've got like herbs, perennial herbs in that garden, and we also try to do a variety of like greens and cherry tomatoes and those sorts of things. And then in the back, we have what we call our pizza garden, where we grow crops that specifically we use for our pizza nights that we have during normal years. So that's really fun and really exciting for the youth too. And then we just recently got a 4-bin composting system put at that site, which is going to be great for recycling all the green and brown material that we're producing from our gardens. Before, we didn't really have a good system of killing off those weed seeds from the from that like compost material, but now by like tracking temperatures and stuff, we can ensure that those the seeds of the weeds die off, and then we can actually use that final compost product back into our gardens. And then we have our wash station there too, where we have 3 bins where we wash off produce and let it hydro cool before putting it out into the world. And then we have 2 different types of coolers at our office site too. We've got a 50-degree cooler and a 35-degree cooler. And this helps us with storage a lot. We recently got the 35-degree cooler in just last season, I believe. And a lot of crops like that slightly warmer temperature and store a lot better in that. So that's been really helpful for us. We also have drip tape irrigation set up, and then some perennials too. Like we've got currants growing there, some raspberries and sunchokes. Yeah, that's our Urban Roots site.
Excellent. 2 quick questions. What kind of bins do you use? And then on your refrigeration, are these, how big are they?
The refrigeration is, let's see, probably like 6 by 10, 6 by 12.
I mean, these are walk-in coolers?
Yep, yeah. So that's the 35-degree. And then the 50-degree is probably even smaller. It's probably 6 by 6, something like that. But we definitely, shelves are really big for us. Like those metal wire shelves from Costco are, we cannot have enough of them. We just, it's like they disappear or something. The minute we get as many as we think we need, we find 4 more reasons to get another. So, and the wash bins, I don't know how to describe those. They're kind of like troughs from Fleet Farm or something.
Are you asking about the wash bins or the
Compost
compost
bins.
bins?
Oh, okay.
Did you make them or did you buy them or?
Yeah, we had actually somebody from University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point who was doing their master's degree, and they were kind of focusing on environmental sustainability, and they were up for building an SOP and training materials for us, while also kind of walking us through what that design should look like. So they're made by her, but we were kind of around as she was planning them out and designing them. So they're square. They're probably like 4 by 4 by 4, and they have 1 removable side with planks, so that there's easy access. There's a lid on them with a hinge so that we can control the water that gets in there. And the reason we have a 4-bin system is we can cure that compost in that 4th bin. So we can kind of have a holding spot for it until we have enough to actually go and do something with it or have a place that needs it. So yeah.
Sorry. This is kind of the first year. This is the first year that we've had that composting bin in operation. But she, like Skyler said, made an instructional video on how to implement it. And so that is something that if folks were interested in, message us and we could connect you with her or answer questions about like what we've learned going through this process.
Thanks.
Okay, and then last but not least, our Rivoli Bluff Garden and Conservation Restoration Site. It's our biggest plot with our longest title. And yeah, it's been a journey getting this place up and running. I think Zarea and Jaclyne have been there from the start. And I guess something good to give you context about it is the reason we can do this. It's right in the middle of East St. Paul. And it's actually right on a flight path for the St. Paul airport. So there are some regulations around developing this little strip of land. It's really noisy because there's always airplanes and helicopters and jets going over. But it's really great because really it's not cost effective for a developer to come buy the land, put anything up. They couldn't get enough rent out of these spaces or enough money from developing it to make it worthwhile to do all the infrastructure work. So we're pretty safe there. It's still not a legal lease, but it's really great. And they're allowing us to invest in it in ways that make us feel really confident that we'll be able to be there for a while. But we also at the same time are looking into different ways that we can maybe get this land put into an agricultural trust. And Twin Cities Community Agricultural Land Trust has been exploring that idea with us and having really exciting conversations. So it's 2.3 acres total. That's not growing space, that's just kind of green space. We also share this site with conservation. We have a hoop house on it. It's 30 feet by 45 feet. We have an outdoor production garden, which you're seeing here. It's pretty big. I think it's about 30 by 150 feet. We have community gardens here, and let's see, we also have kind of 2 separate orchards here. So it's a 4th acre of orchards. It's about 60 trees. We have apple, plum, pear, apricot, cherry. The orchard is pretty young. It's probably 4 years old. And some of the trees are producing, but we're not really treating it like a production orchard right now. We're just trying to give it what it needs and prune it so that, you know, in 5 more years, it'll really look the way we want it to look. We're growing mushrooms at the base of all the trees. So we didn't have as much luck this year, but yeah, we typically grow wine cap mushrooms underneath. And the soil that we kind of, that we got out of the deal with this is very clay. And that's been a really big challenge of ours, is just addressing the drainage problems that we have on this piece of land. So again, cover cropping with tillage radish in the orchard floor, you know, lots of clover, kind of introducing those perennials that can actually break up that soil and improve it. And that's also where the mushrooms come into, is just how do we make this soil more of a living thing than something that they just kind of brought in to put over what was here before we got here. This is a site where beekeeping happens. We have 3 pretty big raspberry beds, and we also have a gravel bed nursery. The conservation uses quite a bit for the trees that they plant. And this is kind of the view that we have of downtown St. Paul. So if that gives you kind of a sense of where we're at, there's a lot of train tracks between us and St. Paul, but it's a pretty awesome view to look at. So yeah, it's a pretty exciting site. And we are hoping to expand our gardens here next season. Jaclyne can talk a little bit more about the educational garden. I think that'll come up later in the slideshow. We also want to increase the garden spaces. There was going to be a solar panel project that XL Energy was going to put together for the neighbors around there, but that's not working out. So it might look like there's more space for us to grow. And we also are going to get a water box installed that will allow us to have more control over when our water goes on in the spring and when it turns off in the fall. And what that's going to do is really allow us to take advantage of the hoop house and our season extension tools in a way that we really just can't take advantage of when we're relying on, you know, the city's schedule of turning water on with fire hydrants and putting on meters. So we want to kind of have the keys to the water box. JJ, do you want to talk about food distribution a bit?
Yeah. All right. So our biggest avenue where our food goes is our CSA. We have over 40 members now and hoping to do 45 next year. We do a summer share, which is 10 weeks long. Is that right, Sky? And then 12. Thank you. And then an extended share, which goes about 6 more weeks in the fall, 4 more weeks. Okay. And then we're maybe going to do a fall share next year, and maybe also even a winter greenhouse share, which if any of you all have experience with that, we'd be curious to hear, because that's something we've never done and are just starting to explore too.
Cool. So now we're going to talk a little bit about where the food goes. And one of the places that the food that we grow goes to is we do wholesale to restaurants and local markets. So there's a list here on the slide of different partners that we work with in the Twin Cities area. So like Union Kitchen, U of Ng's project, also the cafe I mentioned earlier. We have a partnership with the Mississippi Market Co-op in St. Paul. We're hoping to grow more for them this winter with the Metro State greenhouse. So we're hoping to do like microgreens or something like that. And then also different restaurants to like Curry Diva next Centro. And then we do provide some produce for Phoenix Market, the corner store that's right on 3rd and Mariah. So that's one of the venues for the food that we grow.
I think it's worth saying that our wholesale is very small compared to the CSA. Like the wholesale is like a small order here, a small order there, whereas the CSA is a big thing each week.
Yeah, and that's something that's exciting about the greenhouse is it's year long, you know, it's consistent temperature and growing conditions. So the idea of being consistent for a wholesale partner is a little more achievable year round in a way that they can depend on. But otherwise in the summertime, it's like, we'll see what we have at the end of the week because we have to fill those CSA boxes. And it's hard to be a consistent wholesale distributor. And also it just doesn't pay us quite as much as our CSAs do. So it's kind of hard to prioritize it sometimes, but we think the microgreens could be pretty efficient and change that. We also have a few other ways that we get food out there. So we go to Mill City Farmers Market on a normal summer season. Yeah, interns get the chance to gain customer service skills and kind of make the connection between, you know, we grew this food, and then the next step is like, wow, okay, how do we see what it looks like when somebody takes it, and what are they going to do with it, and what can we tell them that'll help them enjoy it the most. So I think that's a really fun thing for the interns. I don't think a lot of the interns at Urban Roots were going to the Mill City Farmers Market anyway, you know, so it's kind of like a fun look into a really different way to buy food and kind of a market style. And I think a lot of the interns that I've gone with haven't really they don't go to Minneapolis that often anyway, so it's usually kind of an exciting trip across the river. And next year, looking forward, we are kind of looking at a mobile market in East St. Paul. So we just got approved to accept EBT and SNAP for our produce, which is really exciting. And we're working with Ramsey County around kind of streamlining the way we get our produce to our interns, and also how we get more food out into the community in East St. Paul. You know, EBT has some challenges where people have to pay in person if they want to access our CSA that way with EBT. CSAs are really expensive, and it'd be nice to pay slowly or by the week if they do want to take advantage of that. So we kind of need to show up somewhere in East St. Paul with that EBT system set up and ready to go once a week to really make that reasonable for people to take part in. So our idea is a refrigerated transit van with some shelving in it that we can kind of have a pop-up market at in East St. Paul. There's not really a big presence of farmers markets in East St. Paul. We've been trying to search for different options going on. So if any of you know of a market that's already happening, we definitely don't want to crowd anybody out or be redundant. So if you know something we don't know, please let us know. We'd love to collaborate. And as that goes on, I think if we find out that there truly is no farmers market presence in East St. Paul, I think it'd be really great to maybe grow into a fully functioning farmers market. I think as farmers, we could be pretty empathetic farmers market managers too. So I think we have a lot of the tools to make that work. We also donate a lot of produce, especially this year. We donated to a lot of different food shelves, a lot of different initiatives around the uprisings in Minneapolis, food insecurities around COVID-19. Clues was a big partner in that way. They have a Monday food shelf, fresh produce food shelf that we donated to every Monday. And they are really great at getting that food out to people. So we also did some weekly intern boxes with produce that we had. And we actually just gave our last one last week. We really improved our storage capacity this year. And got a little better at just knowing what our produce needs to last in the fridge longer. So we were giving CSA boxes for the last 4 weeks to the high schoolers we work with. So those are some places our food goes. And then crop selection, I just wanted to say for us, it's really us trying to find the balance between variety and focusing in on certain crops. Staff and interns in the program take part in debriefing which crops grew best every year, and what crops just kind of, maybe we tried them and we didn't like it. Like, you know, there's so many radish varieties out there. We try a lot of different ones. We don't always grow the same ones twice, you know. Some of them aren't so good. They might not be something that interns really enjoy. We also kind of take a survey at the end of our CSA season and say, like, what do you wish you saw? What did you see too much of? We grew less varieties this year, around 75. It still felt like we had a big variety, and I think we were able to get a lot better at growing what we did grow. I think when we grew, tried to keep it exciting and grow so many different varieties, it was hard to really like take notes about what worked for different crops, or do enough successions to really see, like, does this do better in the springtime or the summer or the fall? And does it do better at this garden, First Covenant, or at Rivoli? So doing less kind of allowed us to zero in on the nuances of those crops too. Which gardens do they like being at the best? We really do have gardens where we just can't grow 10 different crops because the pest pressure is so specific, and you know, we can't grow brassicas at our First Covenant crop plot much. We I think Third and Mariah also we can't really grow brassicas much at. So they all just have a really different personality, and growing less allows us to actually put them in the right place in the gardens, and be more thoughtful in that way. Okay.
All right. I think I definitely want to save time at the end for this, like, to hear everybody's contribution in the networking portion. So the rest, we're kind of transitioning now to the programming piece of what we do. That was most of the growing information. So I think we're going to just kind of cruise through this, maybe we'll be in this part of the presentation for about 10 minutes. And then if people have more detailed questions, then we'll dive into it in the discussion. So just briefly, I will tell you that the Grow It Center is our greenhouse. It's an acronym so it's the fancy name for the greenhouse. I don't remember what it all stands for, but it is in partnership with Metro State. We worked for like 6 years on fundraising for it, including like going to the testifying in front of the legislature about what we would use it for in order to get grants from the state of Minnesota. And it was finally built this year. So we just started our programming in there last winter, and then COVID hit. So Marcos can quickly tell us kind of what it's like to be in there, because I think he spent the most time in there of any of us.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I just want to add that like it's really helpful for us to be able to start our like to have plant starts and get them started like when it's really cold out, so that by the time that we are able to grow, we've got plants already started that we can just get into the ground, which we've been doing every year. But with the Grow It Center, we don't have to hire someone else to do it for us. We can actually do it ourselves, and even maybe in the future get the youth involved in that process. And then it's also just great because we can grow things year round, and we can involve the youth in this sort of growing year round, and we can experiment in this space. And so there's just a lot of really great benefits of having this actual greenhouse space. And it's also just really technologically advanced. And there's a whole like computer brain that keeps the temperature and like wind and like all of these things in check. So just a really amazing space to be able to share and experiment in and all that. Jaclyne, did you want to say anything about the youth programming that's happening?
Well, I guess I wrote I got a master's degree from writing curriculum for this to use in this space, but we haven't really gotten to roll it out yet because of COVID. So hopefully we'll have some great programming in here going forward. And I think we'll skip these videos. They're just cute.
If you could, and maybe you're going to, youth council. So this is a youth-centered program.
Yeah.
And what you guys doing, I kind of knew about it, but this is so much more than I knew. It's awesome.
Definitely.
Really wonderful. So when a youth comes into a garden, they get their hands dirty, they use their body, and they get sweaty and dirty, and they grow some produce, and all of that can be life-changing events. I like to think and believe. And it's not that they're going to be farmers or anything like that necessarily, but I wonder if you could say a few words about, Zarea, I think you started as a youth. Um, how does this, what am I trying to say here? Maybe some stories, or what's the idea here about engaging youth in gardening? What's the big idea?
Absolutely. Well, I'll just kind of tell you the big picture of it, and Zarea can tell you the details.
Okay.
So the youth we have, they're in one of these three programs, right? Gardening, cooking, and conservation. But then any youth is able to join youth council. And so that's like an additional role that they take on. And the idea of youth council was to incorporate more youth voice and representation in our programming. So it is a lot like a student council. We ask them a lot of the big questions that we want feedback for to improve our programming. And they run a meeting, so they build administrative and leadership skills in it. And then I think through the years, every season, youth council looks really, really different depending on the youth that are in it, what their needs are, and then just like the times and the needs of the community and the projects. So on this slide, it tells you kind of what is the backbone of youth council. What are the things that stay the same? And thanks for coming, Courtney. But then within that, it changes to meet the needs of the times. So Zarea, you could tell us some examples of what you've done and like what it's like to be in it.
One of my favorite projects we've done in youth council is the mural. I guess all of them are my favorite, but I feel like the mural is a good example because it shows like all the steps of what Jaclyne just kind of said. Like for the mural, before we even thought about creating like the image of the mural, we had to think about where we're going to get the money. So us youth, we sat down and we had to learn how to write a grant to get money for the mural. And we learned the business aspect of mural making, and then we had to find someone to help us actually create the mural. So it's like, they give us the responsibility of like being our own, I guess, person and like taking that role on and learning how to be responsible and be creative and also get in contact with the community. We had to, because we couldn't paint this whole mural by ourselves. So we asked the community to come help us. We had to go send out flyers and see people face to face. And it was a wonderful time to paint with the community. And now, seeing that every day, or not every day, well, almost every day, every time I go to 3M Garden, it's like, wow, we did that. We can make an impact on the community. And people I see all the time take pictures of this mural. They wonder how it even got there. So it's like, it's cool as a youth to know that we really do make an impact and make change in the community. And youth council kind of helps us see that change in a way. About the community garden, oh my God, one of my other favorite projects. This project, we worked hard on. We had to go and door knock again. We had to spend hours trying to make the dirt livable for plants because it was just gravel and rocks and dead dirt, basically. There was no living soil nutrients. So we had to haul a whole bunch of compost, reach out to people and create systems to, bye-bye, Kelly. We had to create systems to work with the community gardeners. Like, how are we gonna figure out what tools they need? How are we gonna figure out what they want out of the community garden? So it was a great way for us to, again, show our leadership and show that we can do some things and help the community and reach out to them. That's crazy.
This last summer, the food insecurity was just even more exacerbated, and neighbors reached out and said, hey, we'd really like space to grow. And we felt like we might not be able to grow that much more food this last summer, but we could maybe make space for other people to grow food. So with Ramsey County donating all of that compost you see, that was really helpful. We had somebody donate time on a bobcat to take the top layer of the soil off. And Zarea put in a lot of work making this garden come to life, 30 by 150 feet. It's really big, and that was not there this time last year. So that was a big project this summer. And the neighbors seemed to really enjoy it too. So we also helped Clues install a community garden at their site too. We taught some workshops to the participants there around composting, cover cropping, how to produce microgreens in the wintertime, stuff like that. So community gardens have, through that youth council project, has kind of become something we do regularly, and we found out we know how to do because Zarea and some other youth figured it out for us. So yeah. Yeah, and Zarea, maybe you can talk a little bit about this too. Zarea, would you maybe say it just a little bit about like what a week in the garden is like as an intern, maybe like what your time in the garden was spent doing?
Over the years, it definitely has changed a lot, but in general, it was a lot of a typical week would be one day, you know, you're in the garden, maybe the next day you're doing harvest experience and going to Target and trying out foods to see if people might want to buy it, or going to another farm and seeing one man run acres and acres of land, like one singular man, which is mind blowing to me. It was like, it's like you're constantly gardening and doing the same thing, but at the same time, you're always like doing something random and fun and interesting and new. And it was a great time. For the Harvest Crew Field experience, you had to be a part of Urban Roots for 3 years plus. And it was just a way for Urban Roots to give us a more, broaden our horizon to other things. Like there isn't just gardening, there's other things out there, or more parts of gardening that we don't see. Like I didn't know you could run a farm by yourself. That is mind blowing to me still to this day. And yeah, it's a great way to get out there and see new jobs.
I saw a question, how do you get involved? Yeah, they apply through Right Track, which is the city program. They have to apply through them in February. And then Right Track has an elaborate application process that then the youth finally receive notice that they've gotten a job in like April or May. And usually we have about 200 youth applying for like 40 positions. So there's a lot of interest out there, but we do try to cater to the east side. So a lot of those youth, that's the first thing we do to prioritize who gets hired is we look at their zip code. We want to serve our immediate community. Can do the next slide. I think so it's really time to move to our discussion. So I think what I'm going to do, that maybe this is valuable. We're just going to sort of cruise through these slides just so you can see like what we do. We're way more than just a farm. We're a really in-depth community organization. And so there's so much to do that we apparently can't even talk about it in 45 minutes. So we'll just like buzz through this so you can get a glance. And then we can talk about more if something really catches your eye as we're discussing. So yeah. We hire alumni. That program is growing. This is a big one that I do want to ask your questions on, because as the education manager, we're actually looking at growing this program into like a certificate program, like maybe partnering with U of M Extensions or Metro State University or something to grow a post-secondary program as another outlet for alum. This Green Your Mind is how we put the science, like spend deliberate time making sure that the youth understand the science behind the work we do. Because as all of you know, like everything we do is science in agriculture and conservation, right? But sometimes folks don't realize that unless you name it. So Green Your Mind is how we do that. We spend a deliberate hour a week, like doing science, naming the science we do. You can go to the next slide. This is just a list of examples of some of the topics that we do in Green Your Mind. So science in all 3 of the programs. We have a service learning program in a non-COVID year. We have youth come from schools with their teachers. We have volunteering program. This is a community volunteer day. We also have a lot of like corporate groups come out, church groups, you name it. Next. This is, I'll let you guys read through this. This is just data about who lives on the east side. This is just an example of the community that we serve. So bringing it together, this is where I like to spend a lot of time, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time today. Why does it work? Like, why does this programming work? And I'd love to hear Urban Ventures if you sort of have found some of these similar things. But we think that what makes it work is investing in our relationship with both the youth and our community partners. When we had a lot of staff turnover, then we have a lot of youth turnover. What we're doing is creating a community, and we feel like the people are the most important piece of that. And that's what builds trust in a community. And then also our progressive program model. We have kids, youth, they stay with us for, look at Zarea, 5 years, and now she's an adult and she's still with us. Having that room for growth and movement up through a program is what we think is another key to this success. It gives incentive to come back year after year and experience the benefits of that growth. And also, you just don't have just like the depth that we're able to get to with our youth as they come back year after year. You can't match that in like the one and done type of programming. And then also focusing on the community. We try to have fun, and the fact that youth are able to get paid is a really big deal. The youth that we serve, I don't think they would have be able to carve out that time in their lives for this kind of programming if it wasn't also a job. So it breaks down a lot of barriers for the community that we serve. I think this kind of summarizes what I just said. We have done a bit of deliberate work around our education over the last year or so, and we have boiled down all of our work into 5 themes, which you can see here. We believe that we can connect everything that we do to one of those 5 themes, and we're working more and more on making our courses and our experiences more directly related to that, like bringing the language of these things into the work that we do. That's fun. You guys can come and join us for pizza sometime if you want. And then also, as a lot of you folks as educators know, that there's so much STEM in the science, or in agriculture and conservation and cooking. And so this is just, we think that this is kind of the backbone of what we do. And you can go to the next slide. These are just some examples of some of the STEM that we do. Conservation does water quality things. That's what that picture is from. And so there was the quick flash of so much of our programming. So where do we grow from here? This is where we want to ask your opinions too. A big question that we have been wrestling with lately is, do we grow vertically or horizontally? And what we mean by that is, vertically, it kind of is with ages. Like, do we reach down and reach out to more elementary school youth to build a bigger base? And go up and create a post-secondary certificate program? Or do we grow horizontally? Do we make more of the same? Do we offer the same programming to more youth? And that's a big question we wrestle with. How do we grow? So we wrote some examples of some of those things. And I want to hear more about what you think, all of you think on that when we chat. We, as a lot of you probably know, the land use and the land tenure is a big issue for us. Like, how do we make this sustainable in a long term? People could take away the land anytime they wanted right now. We're looking at growing an education garden, breaking ground for a space where maybe we could have incubator plots for alumni. Maybe it's a space like right now, what we do with the elementary school kids is a little bit limited because to grow 15,000 pounds of produce in 1 acre, we're depending on every square foot, right? So we don't have a lot of space for kids to like play and experiment. And so I'm curious what Minneapolis Public Schools, I think it was Kate, was saying about the education garden there, because we're looking at breaking ground for one of those for us too. Looking at expanding our mushroom production, figuring out what to do as our orchard matures. The community garden has gone off really well. We would love to expand that. A lot of questions, a lot of ideas. Help us out, folks. So these are the questions we want to put out there for you all.
I wonder, before we do that, there was a couple suggestions about how Urban Ventures kind of compares and does their work. Julia, are you willing to say a few words about Urban Ventures? There was a question back there, and I don't remember what the exact
there was a question about the mobile markets.
That was it, yeah.
So I just started at Urban Ventures this year, so I haven't experienced the mobile market because we weren't able to do it this year. But I mean, it's exactly what you're referring to, just a refrigerated truck with shelving and the refrigeration unit. And it also has like a rollout awning to cover up the area where you'd be setting out your food. And so I think they had one like elder care facility, maybe more than one. They went there pretty often. And then to school sites, they did mobile markets for youth. And so, yeah, it worked great. And it's really nice just to have the extra refrigeration unit that we like also use that just when we need more space when we're not using it as a mobile market.
Oh, wow.
So it was definitely a great investment.
Did you charge for the produce, or did you give it away?
Yes, when they were doing the mobile market, we've always charged for it, except for this year, we did pay as you're able. Due to the uprising and COVID, we decided to do that. But yeah, previously it's been priced at like lower than a farmer's market price. And we mail out neighborhood cards to the Urban Ventures target area is 25 square blocks. So those few thousand households get a card in the mail that's a neighborhood card, and they get 50% off the original price. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Love that.
So there's a big mix of people that come to the farm stand, people just looking for something organic and local and like willing to pay a lot of money for it, and then people that aren't able to pay as much. So we do accept EBT and all that. Well,
Let me pose these questions here.
Okay.
We're curious in general, like, what did you take from this discussion? What do you want to bring to your work? And then what the opposite way, what ideas do you have for us? Some of these questions that we posed kind of hypothetically, what are some of your answers? And then are there ways that you would want to get involved with our programming or farming? And ideas about this post-secondary program idea and ideas about the mobile market. So we want to hear from you.
And the post-secondary question, was that like the certificate program you mentioned?
Yeah, yep. And I saw someone put in the chat there about Farm at the Arb, and I've met with the manager of that
Tim.
a couple times, Tim. Mm-hmm. And I'm really curious about, like, one thing we've looked at is actually just becoming, what we'd be interested in is really like becoming another satellite of Farm at the Arb, a more urban location.
Excellent.
So I don't know if you know.
Well, for those that don't know, that's in its second year now, and COVID is making it real fun. But it's a real kind of job training program, and where they and it's not youth, but they redid a bunch of things out at the Arb there, and if you ever get a chance, go out. It's awesome, and they have the big bee education place. It's great. And so they do internships. So if you want to do it you go work at a greenhouse or on a farm, or not necessarily just farming or landscaping, something having to do with horticulture. And so it's very much a job training, career building sort of program where you go through all the nuts and bolts of plants and biology and soils and all that.
Let's see. Let's hear, Julia, you already kind of started. Is there anything else that you would want to add to?
Yeah, I was really inspired by the presentation. Sounds really awesome. And I see like how well managed all the plots are.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool. Like the people managing it are doing such a good job. And it was pretty awesome. So at Urban Ventures, I think due to the grants we're working with right now, we're supposed to be focusing on elementary age. But we have had like small groups of high school interns. But it seems like there definitely hasn't been that focus on career readiness or the more internship like experiences that are valuable to the youth that we've had in the past. So I'm not sure what we're going to do with high school age youth going forward, but you guys seem like a great resource and you have some really cool stuff going on. And we're also planning to make one of our spaces an educational garden. Kate with MPS, I actually went to one of the first field trips at their educational garden. So that was a very good model of what like experiential field trips could look like.
Julia, what does your work with elementary school kids look like right now?
Right now, there's really nothing going on with us.
Or I guess normal, in a normal time.
Oh, in a normal time. So I think in the past, we've just been reaching youth that are already involved in Urban Ventures programming. And mostly classes up at the kitchen at the Urban Ventures building. Because presently our space isn't really set up to be kid friendly. Like it's not designed for that at all. Like you guys mentioned, it's just all production focused. But we got a farm to school grant this year, which I know Kate is working with a big grant from the same program. So that's the resources we're using to try to develop more of like getting youth into the farm. But I think it's been a lot of nutrition classes in a kitchen in a building, and then also bringing the mobile market to the school, and then the teacher will bring their class out, and the class spends half an hour out there picking out their vegetables from like the mobile market, and then they take their bag and go back in the building, and there might be some cooking demonstration or some experiential thing for them to do there. Yeah.
I posted a project from North High that I'm familiar with. You can take a look at that together with 4-H. And then, oh gosh, this year would have been, we had a Growing North project that I helped get rolling, and we wrote some grants, and it was all about getting youth in the garden. It was together with the Step Up program with Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Which is a real career focused thing. Not so much in gardens, but I'll see if I can find something handy to
Step Up is really like the Minneapolis equivalent of Right Track. So.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
We got.
So I think Urban Ventures has been hiring, or they hired through Step Up the last couple years, but they had a pretty poor experience with it because it kind of ended up being like the last ditch option. Like the people that were running the program were like, oh, the people that signed up late, or the people that this is like the last option, and if you want to do something, you have to go here. And it like did not make for a good team of students that wanted to be there. So it was cool to hear that you guys seem to be having a good experience with the St. Paul program, but how does that work?
Yeah, good question. I think a big part of it is there's this big job fair. Do you guys have that? No. Yeah, so there's a job. So Right Track provides funding for youth jobs in like 40 different St. Paul organizations. So I don't know if any of the rest of you are, I forget if you're in St. Paul or not, but like anyone can apply to to be a job site. So you could have like high school age workers at whatever you do. But then on this job fair day, the youth all come, and we have like a bunch of our current youth there with us. Zaria's been there, just like telling kids about the program, talking it up. And like, we have like a video playing and, you know, all that business. And so that's how we try to get interest.
Nice.
Do some recruiting in the schools too.
Oh yeah.
From time to time, and just show up and table and just, you know, hope that people engage with us and ask us good questions. So.
And you know where we've been really successful is AVID classes. I don't know if people are familiar with that at all, but they have that in Minneapolis too. And it's a program it's targeted for like youth in the middle, not like the top of the class, not youth and remedial courses, but they're really like, they're future centered and trying to train them to college bound youth. And so I've had really good luck presenting in those AVID classes, because they have like a teacher who's a big support group that creates the supportive network and is like, this is a great resume item, like apply, you know. So I've presented in the AVID classes in at Harding and Humboldt, and not Humboldt, Johnson and Como. So that's been another avenue.
Have you guys collaborated at all with Spark Y or Youth Farm?
Yeah. You know, they're just kind of like our sisters that are that are always at the same things that we go to. And we have big dreams of more collaboration. Like, you know, we think that Youth Farm does elementary really well, and we do high school really well. They do like community engagement really well. We do production really well. So sometimes we have pie in the sky, like, oh, a merger would be incredible. But then I don't know, you think about all, like, sometimes the bigger you are, the harder you fall, you know? So we're not sure.
Maybe when we later this summer or fall, when we can, maybe some kind of you know, a symposium with all the youth-centered kind of programs, and just kind of get them all together and share and connect.
Yes.
Because no matter how much you work on this stuff, you realize, oh God, there's just people doing this cool thing. We should have known about that.
Yes, we definitely need more of that. I'd 100% be behind that. And the other thing we found is that our youth enjoy getting together with the other youth that are in these programs. So some kind of symposium, getting them all together would be really neat.
Speaking of the ARB, there's another program too that's run out of UROC. It's a youth engagement program. They have gardens around North Minneapolis, and then they go out to the ARB.
Yeah, I thought an hour and a half would be a really long time, but it's just about over.
Yeah.
Is there anything else people want to add before we have to sign off?
I'll just jump in and say thank you so much. It was a great presentation, and I loved hearing kind of both about, from a production standpoint, you know, what your garden sites look like, but also the education that you integrate into all of those sites. And I was especially interested in kind of like your 5 themes for your curriculum, and would love to connect with all of you later as we kind of like develop what our curriculum and field trips will look like at our site. So thank you very much.
It's funny, sometimes that stuff feels a little bit like fluff, right? like oh, 5 themes. But what we've discovered is that it really does, it's really, really useful. It really drives our curriculum a lot. It helps us stay grounded, and also helps us know where to go. So we found that just like language, naming things, and then using them as kind of compass has been super helpful in program development.
So definitely our winter projects.
Excellent. It's really great. We had an event some 3 weeks ago out at the Rivoli site, and I got to know you all a little bit. But it's nice to learn more about the awesome work that you do. I think obviously you're well on your way, and keeping these things growing and active and funded is always a big challenge. But and you know, I've been in extension for a long time, and you know, education in a way is kind of a crapshoot. You'll never know how many youth you've touched in different ways that sent them on different paths. But again, as simple as going to the grocery store and they look at a tomato and now they can say, oh, well, I know about that. And I wonder where that tomato came from. So anyway, that's just a little example of it. Any other parting thoughts? So we just keep the conversation going, and we can keep on collaborating. We've got the one meeting coming up on the 9th, and then I'm planning for some more, but nothing definite yet. So keep those cards and letters coming. Anything else for the good of the cause here? Some parting words?
Well, Carl from Rochester and Olmsted County. I guess we're, you know, Kelly just wanted me to share. We wanted to partner with 3 or so community garden projects last year, such as Revolutionary Earth, and we did a couple other community ones. So we really need a organization like this in Olmsted County that we could partner with, because as you know, with Master Gardeners, we're educators. We're not really the doers. We don't have a paid staff. We have just like a part-time admin. We have no staff here at the extension for us. So well, this is, you know, but it's very motivating, inspiring what you guys are doing, and maybe we can do something like this in Rochester. So we'll stay in.
Is there a 4-H group that could maybe start?
Yeah, we do have. I think they have a couple of staff helping 4-H, and we have helped them. We've created some videos this year, but you probably also know, Carl, the restrictions that are pretty severe on Master Gardeners.
Yeah, right now it's tough.
Yeah, so we get out there, we garden, but we can't really do it with youth or other organizations directly. So we're kind of helping out, but I think Kelly, so I'm the vice chair. I'll be chair next year. Kelly's going to be vice chair. So you've got our leadership team engaged here, and hopefully we can stay in touch and do something similar.
Excellent. Great. And Skyler, maybe I'll give you the last word.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. I hope you were surprised. I hope you learned things you didn't already know about Urban Roots, and I hope you feel like you spent a little bit of time in our gardens getting to know what we're busy with all summer long. So
excellent. It looks really nice.
Yeah, and we'll have an in-person tour hopefully in the springtime at Rivoli once again. Hopefully that'll be safe, but if not, we can do a distanced tour and get together too. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Carl, you'll probably have something to do with that.
Okay.
We do. And then, yeah, feel free to reach out if you have any questions that you forgot to ask.
Absolutely. And check out all the web pages that were listed. And I want to thank you all very much.